today we're going to start building the rest of the instrument. I'm starting with a C harmonica, and we're going to work on breathing through the harmonica. Now, if you play accordion, you have a bellows, and when you push the bellows together, it pushes reeds through one bank of reeds, the blow reeds, so to speak, and then when you pull it apart, it pulls air into the accordion and plays the draw reeds. Now, we do the same basic thing with our lungs. So our lungs are the bellows, and our lungs are operated mostly by the diaphragm, which is a dome-shaped muscle underneath the lungs. And when you breathe in, the diaphragm contracts. It's an active process and moves down. So it's doing this. And it creates a vacuum which expands the lungs, and the breath goes in. And when you breathe out with normal breathing, you simply relax and the diaphragm returns to its default state. We're not going to get super into the weeds about this, but there's a few things that are helpful to know, which is I'm going to emphasize good posture when you're playing the harmonica, because when your body is straight, your lungs have more room to move. If you do the classic, and I am super guilty of this, you can definitely find YouTube videos of me hunched over with my bullet mic playing harmonica, and it's a very common thing that you'll see among harmonica players is a tendency to crouch. And part of that is a sort of a psychological thing. It's that kind of a defense position. So if you learn to stay open and keep yourself relatively straight, your lungs will have more room to move. So that's one part of maintaining your bellows unit, your lungs. The other thing is that when you're straight, the throat has more room. And if you really want to accentuate that even more, you tilt your head back. This is why wolves tilt their head back when they howl at the moon, because it gives them more power. And so if you just keep thinking in terms of you want room to move and you want your upper body to be relaxed. And another little detail there is that your rib cage also will move, will expand and contract. And if your upper body is tense, it restricts the movement of the rib cage. So these are all things to take into consideration. And this is one reason why I'm breaking this down into these very distinct stages. Today we're working just with the diaphragm and these lower abdominal muscles in through here. Start off with your yawn. Okay, and that opens up your throat, and it should also relax your upper body so that you're loosey-goosey up here. And what I want you to do is, while maintaining that open throat, put the harmonica in your mouth and keeping your throat open. We'll start with just in, out, in, out. Okay? And what's going on, or what I want you to focus on, is getting yourself in touch with the feeling of that diaphragm moving down when you're doing the in-breath. And then when you do the out-breath, give it a little bit of assist by you engage your abdominal muscles while keeping your upper body relaxed. This is something that you're going to have to work on to train yourself to do, but it's super powerful. You're engaging your abdominal muscles, and basically it's like what you do when you try to pretend like you're thinner than you actually are. You want to look good, and so you're sucking in your belly, but you're engaging these muscles. And what that does is it gives you a active control over the out breath. Instead of just being a passive relaxation, allowing the diaphragm to go up, you're actively engaging to goose the process a little bit, okay? All right, take a deep breath and just let that sink in. I'll walk you through this. We'll keep it as simple as possible, and so it's always a good idea to keep doing this. Yawn. Now we've got our default back. Now I'm going to put my harmonica in the mouth, and this time I'm going to do a double in-breath. So that means I'm going to engage the diaphragm, pause, engage the diaphragm the rest of the way. And then when I relax the diaphragm, I am engaging these muscles a little bit. Pause, finish the out breath. So it's a double in breath, double out breath. And and as you keep your throat open to create the articulation, what it does is it makes you really pay attention to the muscles you're using to create the stopping and starting of the breath. And this will become more clear later on as we do other things, how powerful this is and why it's a good idea to start with the open throat. Okay. Hand signal, in breath, out breath. So here we go. Now, what you want to do is to listen carefully, and it's a good idea to record yourself and play it back. Another way you can check your what's happening is to stand in a corner where there's a drywall, stand in that corner and do this, and it reflects the sound directly into your ears and gives you a much more detailed, aural feedback than if you're standing in the middle of a room. So what you're listening for is you want to make the in-breath and the out-breath have the same timing and the same overall feel to them. Okay, so that's one way to do that, to work on making your rhythm as consistent as possible. Another way to work with this is to start super slow and then just gradually speed it up. At some point in this speeding up process, you'll start to feel the kind of coughing reflex kicking in to create the articulation. That's your threshold where you're going from diaphragm breathing to throat articulation. Now, the other thing you can do while you've got your throat wide open is play around a little bit with creating different tonal characteristics. So if I open up my throat, separate my teeth a little bit, move my jaw slightly forward, and yawn and open up my throat, I'm going to get a deeper tone than if I have what I would call the normal, the basic default embouchure, like what happens right after you try the glass of water and then move to the harmonica. Okay, from that setting to big mouth. Do you hear that difference? I'm separating my teeth a little bit. I'm just creating as much room in my mouth as I can, moving my tongue to the bottom of my mouth. It's like you're yawning. You can also visualize being at the doctor's office and he's got one of those tongue depressors, and you don't want him to use it, so you depress your own tongue. So he's looking at your throat and he goes, "Oh, we don't need this." Back to normal. Now for the other end of the spectrum, now we're going to move our tongue up in our mouth and forward and make the smallest possible space between the inside of our mouth and that front of the harmonica. I call this mosquito tone because we're going from, okay, if you visualize, where am I? Okay, here's the inside of your mouth, big tone. Now mosquito tone squishes it all down to almost nothing. Big tones, mosquito tone. Okay, so, and that sounds like this. Here's normal to mosquito tone. Here's how I work with this. When I work with a group of people, I have my hand signals. And if I'm in the middle, that's normal. Down low is bass tone. Up high is mosquito tone. So let's give this a shot here. And once again, yawn. Okay, now we're ready. Normal. Okay, you get the idea. So this is one thing you can do as you work with your breathing. And this gives you your tone knob. Okay, so this gives you your bass tone to treble tone. And that's how you build in that setting in your internal amplifier. And that's a good place to stop for now. So just quick review, you want to have your abdominal muscles engaged just enough that when it's time to do the out breath, they don't have to go from fully relaxed into action. They're partially engaged, and then you relax the diaphragm, or you move the diaphragm down to get your in breath. As the diaphragm's going back up, then your abdominal muscles are kicking in just enough to push it. And you're working at evening out the attack of the in-breath to the out-breath. With most people, one or the other is by default more powerful or more strong or have a different tone quality, and you want to even that out as much as possible. So that's what you're listening for. And you want to keep your upper body relaxed and keep your throat relaxed. So that's how you start building up your system to be able to breathe through the harmonica for maximum power and expression.